sent you. And well, you know it because of where you are. Everything in this business is relationship.
Yeah.
And relationship and negotiation. Yep. So I think that could be that for me, it goes way, way back. I started with learning how to work with people.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's one of the things with this business that has opened the people that I get to meet all the time is really where I love it. That's the coolest part about it. The nuts and bolts, the pain in the ass side of the business is a pain in the ass. But right. The people that I've met along the way have really, really helped, and it makes it fun, right?
Right. Exactly.
What else? Speaker view. Okay.
Hey, with you having interviewed a bunch of people, is this camera quality okay, or do I need to upgrade?
Do you have an upgrade?
I don't, but okay. I can't. Not for this event, but for future uses for other stuff. Is what I'm asking.
So I would. Logitech makes the camera that I'm on right now very affordable. It's like, I don't know, $40-$50, something like that.
Say it again?
It's a Logitech.
Logitech, okay.
It's just the Logitech 1080p camera. Phenomenal. Does really, really well.
Good. Okay. Perfect. Okay.
So let me know when you're ready, man, and we'll get moving.
Right. Phones are off, and
oh yeah.
Now, can you hear the music in the background? Should I shut that off, or are you good?
No, you're good. You're absolutely good. So, all right, let's do it.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Yo!
Welcome, everybody. This is Scott Bauer. Actually, let's start that over here. What were you gonna say there?
I just said yo.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna have to start that one over. Right. Nobody's ever. That's funny. Okay, let's try this again. 3, 2, 1. Welcome everybody to the 76th episode of the #InvestThis podcast. I'm your host Scott Bauer, and today we got Dave Frenecki with Capstone Capital with us. Dave, how you doing?
Great, Scott. How are you?
Man, I am just rocking and rolling. I'm feeling great today. First and foremost, for all the listeners out there that are getting value out of this podcast, if you've learned anything, if you've got anything out of the podcast, please do us a favor here. Like it, share it, subscribe to it so that everybody else that you know in your network can get the same value that you're getting. It's really important to us. We have a mission here at InvestThis where we want to help people move to the next level in their investment business and in their business in general. So like it, share it, subscribe it. We'd really appreciate it. So with that being said, a little bit about Dave. Let me tell you a little bit of his background. He is regarded as a real estate industry expert and currently today consults with note investors, real estate investors, as well as real estate agents and IRA investors to help implement their strategies. He also enjoys hiking and spending quality time with his grandson and daughter in his free time. And I got to tell you some awards and some stuff that he's got over the years. I know from personal time I've spent with Dave, he's been in the industry for a long time. He's not a newbie. He's been doing this for a really long time. And with that, he's regarded as a national speaker, both regional sales trainer, indirect sales and marketing. He was number 29 in the 2010 real estate sales for Maricopa County, selling $31 million. He's sold over 900 houses. He was a real estate REO real estate broker in 2008 to 2015, predominantly with Fannie Mae. He's an accredited investor for the AZ Department of Real Estate, continuing education, getting out there, making sure all the real estate agents are staying on top of it. And it looks like with special regards to seller financing. He's the winner of Note School and Note Expo Best Partial for 2017. We're going to talk about what Note School is and Note Expo as well.
Great.
And he also is the IMN Note Convention panelist, or was in 2017 and 2018.
Correct.
And he is the owner of Note Investors Forum Meetup, which actually happened yesterday. So,
correct.
With that being said, welcome to the call, man. Love to have you here.
Thank you.
Why don't you go ahead, give the listeners a little bit more about your background, what you focus on now, and we'll talk about that for a little while.
Okay. So I started real estate back in 1978, buying rentals and rehabbing and all that, and eventually moved to Maine, did a couple of subdivisions there in the 80s, brokerage, that type of thing. Got out after the Resolution Trust days, got hurt, crucified, came to Arizona in the late 1990s, got back into real estate, building and developing, and then the REO stuff. And then now, since 2013, been focusing on the note space. So basically, it's progression. You start at a certain level, you grow, and I always thought, where does all the money come from? Why not just control the money? Why not control the paper? And that's where I am now. I'm a paper guy. I just felt for me that was my best path, because I really don't want to do any more rehabs or any of the other stuff, and definitely not brokerage. I'm out of that game. So that's where I am.
So, let's back it up to way even before you got into real estate at all. What were you doing before real estate? Were you in corporate America? Were you on the side?
Right after school at University of Cincinnati, my dad had a landscaping business. So I moved into that. We were doing commercial landscaping in and around Cincinnati, Dayton, all that area. So I did that as a kid from age 13 to age 33. And that was, we ran that we had a long, good run. So it's construction related.
And did that fuel like the want that you had to get into real estate to begin with?
I had that in college. And they didn't have any courses like they have now. You'd go to UC and you take a course on what's a deed. It's like, really? But that's all they had at that time. And then there was the Richard Allen book, No Money Down, and all the ones at Nickerson and all those. But it was basically, you go out and you just figure it out. There was no magic pill, nobody to help you. You just did it. It was all just, what is it? Ready, aim, fire. Oh, then you got to load the gun.
Ready, fire, aim, right?
Yeah, ready, fire, aim. That's right.
Great philosophy. That's a great way to go at something. Sometimes can be a little scary, but that brings us to 1978. And then you dove in as if I remember right, as just an agent to begin with. Yep.
And then the developing in Maine, my wife at the time found this house. She liked the acreage. I negotiated a seller carry and ended up splitting into 16 lots and putting up a few houses, selling the rest, getting the listings. And it was a great run. And I didn't know nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. It was just, winging it.
So kind of learn along the way. That's a great way to do a lot of things when you have to, right? Because I think
you got to do what you got to do. You have a dream, you have a target, you're money motivated. I love creating. I still like creating. I just do it differently. But just the mental stimulation, it's an adrenaline rush.
Oh yeah.
You get that. You're turning X hundreds of houses a year, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. It's a rush. You like going to a closing and walking away with 40, 50 grand in your pocket. That's a rush.
That is a rush. That is a fun time, and that's a good day. That's for sure. Everybody likes that.
And back then, I'd sell a lot. I'd put 30 in my pocket, but 30 in 1986 was a fair amount of money.
Oh, let's be honest. 30 today is a good amount of money, right? Anytime you're making money is good. Shoot, $5,000 is a good amount of money.
Agreed. But it's the adrenaline.
It's the adrenaline, right? And a lot of people whether you're a real estate investor or any other entrepreneur, it's all in the kill. It's all in the chase, right?
Absolutely.
That's where the fun is. It'd be no fun. If I just made a bunch of money all the time, sure, it would be great. I'm not saying it wouldn't be great, but you don't have that thrill of chasing it. You don't have the skill of going out to negotiate with somebody and actually being able to make a win-win transaction out of it, right? That's the best feeling ever. Yep. So, and you probably know that better than ever, being an REO agent for as long as you were. Talk about that for just a short minute.
Well, in 2007, everything crashed. I was building and developing. I put up 50 houses here in the Phoenix area in Tonopah and Buckeye. And in 11 months, no money. What do I do? So a friend of mine in Albuquerque, he was an REO guy. And when I was doing the developing, he was, I was making all the quote unquote money, and he was an REO guy. Then afterwards, I humbled myself and said, "Hey, Jesus, can you show me?" So he got me in the back door behind, in front of the line, and got in with Fannie. And it was it was a great run. Had a staff of 5 or 6. I was the only agent. And we just ran and ran and ran. It was crazy. It was crazy good money. It was insanity because everything was crashing. And I controlled the inventory being an REO agent. So people were coming to me.
Yep. Yeah.
So it was a fun time.
At the time, that was what 2009? Is that what I
started in 2008. 2010 was my best year. I picked up 296 listings, 65, I think, in January of 10. It was just crazy. I hike in the morning and go out looking at properties the rest of the day.
Yep.
But it was at the time of thing. I'm really crazy for doing it. But looking back, it's like, well, that was a pretty good run.
That was a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
That was on the retail side of things. I mean, at what point did you decide that retail wasn't for me and I'm going to make a shift into the investment? Did you start?
The only reason I shifted to retail because there wasn't much going on.
Yeah.
I went to, remember the name Jack Miller?
Yeah.
Okay. So I went to a seminar of his back in 2007 in Reno. And he said, in a down market, and it's coming, get into managing government properties. So what's an REO guy do? That's the only thing that was happening. And then I applied with Fannie Mae, took advantage of my gray hair, got into their Irving office, and then it was all about building relationships with the asset managers and trust. They knew I could get it done. So if I got them their bonus at the end of the month, I got a whole bunch of listings the next month.
Yep.
But in terms of getting out, I didn't want to do a retail agency. It's running buyers around. No. I just didn't want to do it. Saw Eddie Speed. We talked about that in 2013. It made sense. And then I was doing them both. And then, of course, the REO stuff died, and I just ramped up the notes.
Well, we're definitely going to come back to Eddie Speed because that has another component of this call that's very, very important. But for the listeners out there, I mean, what is one piece of advice that you can give to them as they're kind of, if they're a real estate agent right now and they, they're finding out that it's very difficult to find a lot of listings out there, or it's hard to be a retail agent. I mean, what's one of the things you had to overcome during your process going from 1978 to basically through 2015 when you stopped with the REOs? What was a major problem that you had to overcome?
Me.
Okay, elaborate.
In all sincerity, it's a matter of knowing when you get to a wall, and don't be so proud to try to go around the wall, and don't necessarily try to go through the wall. That's not necessarily the best way to go. It's a matter of just looking, keep experimenting. You're an entrepreneur, figure it out. And to your point where you laughed, look in the mirror. Who's ever staring back at you, that's your problem. Just go do it.
I think it's so true. I only laugh because everything happens between your ears.
It is. It's totally an attitude. It's all attitude.
Yep.
And I believe in that. And yeah, you get down. You got to pick yourself up and dust yourself off and just keep moving. But what are the options? Am I going to get a job? Not a prayer.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. But what would you say is? I mean, give me an example. Give me an example of like how you had to go around the wall. Right. How did you make the shift? And actually, I think there's a book Gary Keller wrote. I think it was him that wrote a book called Shift. Have you heard of that before?
I have not.
Yeah.
No.
So it's been years. I think it was him. It might not be him. But anyways, the book is called Shift, and it talks about how you have to be able to shift during market changes, right? And so obviously 2008 was the start, especially here in Phoenix, of a drastic market change.
Right.
You had to make a shift, and you made the appropriate choice.
Yeah, and I just was looking, and then I remembered Jesus Esparza in Albuquerque, and he was doing REO, and I remember what Jack Miller said, and it was really humbling. Jesus, can you help me? So that was internal. And then as I saw the REO starting to dip, and then I saw Eddie, initially my arms were crossed like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to pay any mentorship. But it made sense. I thought, I can be an asset manager instead of being the guy in the ground. It was just natural. It's like if you just keep being out there, opportunity will open up. So it's nothing magical. And if you try to force it, it doesn't work. It's just not there. It just comes. And for me, it's the patience to just have that and wait and just pray and hope it's going to go. But if you believe in yourself, it'll go. But there's no magic formula for me. But you just keep pinging it. And you go crazy doing that. But it is what it is. Unless I'm sure you've experienced something similar to that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, several different times now. And the only difference, and this is one negative that I would say in my career so far in my life here in Phoenix, is I really got rolling in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, or I'm sorry, 2012, 2013, actually. The market was on its upswing. I have not lived through a down cycle yet, but it's coming. So I think this is a good chance to pivot to an extent and talk about the market, because as we're going to go into a little bit later in the call when we get into notes, talk about where you feel the market is and maybe, do you think a shift is coming? Do you think that that's kind of where we're at? What would you tell the listeners about that?
Frankly, I thought it was going to come a couple years ago, because in the past, you'd always run 7 to 10 year cycles and we were due. But with all the Fed's artificial stuff going on, and then the advent of the internet and just that whole cycle, which you and I have talked about at lunch, a couple of weeks ago, that delayed it. So the shift is coming now. I went to an ISREA meeting. We talked about this before too, just a few months ago. And Tina at Cromford said we were going down from September through March. And then in April, the market here just took a U-turn north. Made no sense. Now other parts of the market are slowing, but we're due because there's so many other things. But going back to that, I used to drive back from Tonopah and Buckeye. I'd be out there 5 days a week going from Ahwatukee to there. That's about 70 miles around each way. And I thought, life is good. What could happen? Construction, real estate's 35% of the Phoenix economy, but it was the worldwide events. So to that point, it's going to be a worldwide event. It's going to be, well, like an example, a friend of mine, a guy I used to know, his name was Dan Corin, and he was at that time 75. He used to own the largest string of hospitals up and down the west coast of California, and about 50,000 apartment units. And he said, watch the box manufacturers. If their production goes up, the market's going up. If their production going down, the market's going to go down because goods and services aren't moving. So what's happening now? Long-term over-the-road truck sales are down 80%. They even move Amazon goods. So if goods and services aren't moving, how can anything else move? And right now you got Zillow coming to town, and they're willing to buy houses with no profit or lose. So it's all these different things are coming together. It's happening. All the gray hairs like me know it's going to come. The question is when and how long can the Band-Aid stay on or come off?
So what advice can you give to somebody out there that's trying to protect themselves from, from a turn like this, from something like this happening in the near, I would say, obviously we have an election coming up from
that's going to keep it for a while. Yeah.
And hopefully that, maybe stays as it is today. So maybe, what do you think? I don't know, 2 to 5 years from now, but they want to protect themselves. What would you tell them to do?
Watch your debt structure. Don't get way over leveraged. Just because somebody else is willing to offer 89% on a house doesn't mean that you do.
Yeah.
Just keep the stupid stuff out of the, keep your brain on. Don't look just for the kill, because if you go for the kill and you don't look at the back end exit or exit strategies, you're going to be toast, and they will get you. They've gotten me. In the past. I think it's just the debt structure and being wise at what you do. And you can overthink it, but you can be realistic too, but also network like we're doing right now, and just keep looking and watching. And that sounds kind of loosey-goosey. That's all you can really do. Get your cash flow properties, but like you're doing with your apartments, because people have to live somewhere. Yep.
Well, even with that, so we just got an eight unit that we got under contract last night, and going to go through the due diligence over these next week and a half or 2 weeks, and I'm going to be very strict on what those numbers must look like, because I just got to protect my downside. I'm assuming everything is going to go bad. I'm assuming that everything is going to happen. All the tenants are going to move out. How am I still going to make the mortgage payment? How am I still going to be able to keep the utilities on? What am I going to do if all hell breaks loose and this property doesn't produce income? What's going to happen? That's how I look at everything. That's how I look at every investment. Been very blessed that I've been able to have some good investments up to this point. But, you got to be careful out there, right?
Now, the other thing, going back to Jack Miller, non-recourse loans.
Amen.
Okay? Assumable loans. Stay away from traditional bank financing. Let me give you an example. A friend of mine that I met through the note school stuff, Lewis, he was in Detroit. He's my age. He is and was a very, very successful investor back in the downturn. He did a deal with a bank. They were going to put up a building, government funded, government tenants. The economy changed, and they knew he had a large net worth. They said, no, we're cutting you off. Well, what about our contract? We don't care. Their goal was to get his assets. So he had to do a BK, a bankruptcy, to protect himself. So my point is, be careful about who you cut a deal with. It's not the deal, it's the deal maker. If you're buying houses, use seller financing. Don't go into the traditional area. Stay out of that, because it's too risky.
Well, I would even say if you're buying more than houses, well, matter of fact, that's what the 8 unit is. It's a seller finance deal.
Correct.
Be creative in your financing. And,
absolutely.
you know, the personal guarantees and things like that, when it comes to the loan that you put together on these seller financing deals, I'm not so sure that a personal guarantee on a seller finance deal is a negative thing, depending on what deal it is.
Right.
It has to make sense because, I don't know, you know, in my opinion, if you have, let's say, an apartment complex, you have more doors. If, you know, it's not just one. So if you got a couple tenants to move out, you have other ones that will make up for it.
Right. Yeah.
But overall, personal guarantees are a scary thing, and all the traditional
don't do it.
Put it on.
Yeah, I would, based upon what I've learned and what I've heard from others. I mean, really, really smart, seasoned real estate guys. Personal guarantees do not exist in the really successful folks' career. They just, because they learned the hard way.
Yeah.
Even though Arizona is an anti-deficiency state on the single family, when you get into commercial, it's a whole different game.
Yep. Yep.
And then you do if you walk, then you got the tax implications. So it's like, you know, why set yourself up for a failure down the road? Because you don't know what's going to be there in 2 years. You don't.
Shoot, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, right?
Yeah,
we don't know anything.
I know.
So that's absolutely true. You got to protect the downside.
Yep.
That's a great tip, by the way. So what about, you know, great time to transition now. Let's talk about notes. So we mentioned something about Eddie Speed. For those of you out there that don't know who Eddie Speed is, he runs the Note School, which is the mecca when it comes to learning how to invest in notes.
He's the guy.
What's that?
He's the guy.
He's the guy. He's the one. Over 40,000 or 400,000 seller finance notes he has looked at over his time. And he's a very cool guy, right? Just a very down-to-earth, very cool guy. Both Dave and I both know him personally and are part of that group, I should say.
Mentoring program, right.
Mentoring program, right. So talk to them a little bit about notes. Let's talk to the audience about what you know, notes. I've had a couple episodes ago about notes, but let's talk a little bit more about it. What is your experience with it?
I've worked the non-performing. It wasn't my cup of tea. It's just the tolerance levels, too many unknowns. It was hard.
What does that mean for the listeners? Non-performing. What is
non-performing means you buy a loan, the people have stopped paying, the house might be vacant for 2 years, you have no idea what you got, most likely you're probably gonna have to foreclose, then you got an REO. Now, is that just gonna be in Phoenix, Arizona? No. I'd say 95% of what I do is outside of Arizona. So you're dealing with all the different state laws, state statutes. If you're gonna do a rehab out of state, you're dealing with different, you know, contractors. But the net is the NPNs for me just didn't fit my box. I didn't feel like doing a private placement memorandum and, you know, get a whole bunch of money behind me, mainly because of 07 and all the junk that was there. I just didn't want to do it. So from the NPNs, I went into the performing notes. So NPN is non-performing note.
Right.
Performing notes, you got a quantifiable return. You still have to look at your back end. When I say back end, how much equity you have for what you're going to pay, because they do go bad. Or for an example, when you're buying a house, Scott, you're what, 75% less repairs, or whatever the number is, what you're working on right now.
Yep.
So when you're buying a note, if your loan to value is over 65 or 70%, you're not looking at the interior, that note goes bad, where are you going to be?
Yep.
So I like it because it's quantifiable. I can work them out of my IRA. I can do individual loan participation agreements versus, you know, which is really a fancy word for a joint venture. It's one-on-one. It's just clean. I'm dealing in the lower price band, and it's just good. And right now, hedge funds are unloading because their investor pool, they're out there in the 5-year run. So there's some good deals out there. So that's what I'm working. And then outside of that, you can go the REO route in those different areas. And again, I just choose not to go that way. I don't want to do rentals out of state.
I get it. That makes a lot of sense. How can somebody make money with a note? A lot of people probably that are listening to this and maybe have no idea what note investing is. They think, well, okay, one, let's very quickly quantify what a note is. And two, how can they make money? How can if somebody was going to come to you and you're like, hey, I buy notes, this is an investment strategy that I use. How can they make money?
Couple of ways. One, if they have an IRA out there and the money's just sitting there getting rotten and moldy, if you put that to work with a note where you bank, so you're the bank, whether it be a land contract or whether it be a mortgage or deed of trust, you own the financing. It's your money is backed by a hard asset. If it goes south, you've got the asset to go to and pick up the pieces. If you're outside of that, so that's passively, or you can flip them. Outside of that, you can buy a note at a discount and flip it. So what does that mean? You flip a house, you buy it for 50, you sell it for 125, whatever it is. I'm buying notes now. If it's, let's say it's a $100,000 note, I'm buying it for 60 grand and I'm flipping it for 85 grand. So that's how I'm making my money. Plus the monthly return on the interest rate, depending upon 3%, 10%, or whatever it might be. Just depends upon the asset and how the paper was written.
So this is really exciting because I think that people, the IRA is one of the places where so much wealth is held in the U.S.
Right.
And I'm not sure there's billions, maybe there's trillions of dollars that are held in IRAs today out there, and the majority of which is not making any interest on their money.
Right.
Now somebody says, okay, well, I just give it to my stockbroker, and they're, or my, my agent, whoever's handling my investments, they're handling my IRA. Well, then you're trading paper for paper, which is just, paper for paper on the stock market. It's not really, you can't go see it, feel it, touch it. You can't do any of that, right?
Management changes in the stock market and the companies.
Yep.
Absolutely. You get a Boeing thing going on.
So for all the listeners out there, if you have an IRA, maybe it's making a weak performance, you can invest in a note, which is the same as investing in a real estate deal where you can physically go look at this property. You can go see it, feel it, touch it. I mean, it's a real thing. And the returns that you get off these are phenomenal. Yep. Much greater with a foreseeable return than you're going to find, on the stock market.
Or another analogy, Scott, is toilets, tenants, trash, and termites as a landlord, yep. Or just have the paper. I am not a manager. I'm not good at it, but you can get the same return on a note. Because, the real estate market goes up and down. Stock market average is what, 6-7% over the last 20 years?
Yeah, something
or
like that.
If that. But on the notes, it's static. You're protected. People have to have someplace to live. So even if you get the loan, the house back, you can sell the asset, but the cash flow, it's all about cash flow. That's what's key in today's market. Even for a downturn, cash is king.
That's right.
Can I share something? Remember at the Summer Summit, Ryan Parsons spoke, and you had $500,000. Do you remember that example? He used a chalkboard. So let's say you have $500,000, and let's talk about a hard money guy now.
Yep.
And their goal is they're locked in at this 12% return, no matter what. Well, they put it out there, it comes back. They put it out there 10, it comes back. And at the end of 12 months, it's sat dormant for 5 or 6, and their return might be, say, 45 grand or 43 grand. Or you go out in a note at 8%. Oh my gosh, it's horrible, 8%, right? But your return is higher than the other because it's been out there for 12 months.
So it's a steady eddy, right? There's a steady eddy. You want to put your money out there. I definitely remember Ryan talking about that. It's funny because Ryan happens to be from Iowa as well. I just made a relation to myself. But if you're a hard money lender and you're getting 12% interest on your money per year, that means 1% per month. So every month out there that the money is not deployed, and when Dave was talking about you put it out there and it comes back, that means somebody borrows the money for 3 months, they fix up a house, they sell the house, you get the money back. You got 3 months worth of return, but then it sits dormant for a month or 2 months, right?
Yep.
If instead you can go and you can get 8% on your money, and it's every single month, every month, nonstop. It's steady eddy. It's just
consistent.
So
to your point, Scott, at my meetup yesterday, we were talking about that's going to be posted on Facebook and also on the YouTube channel. I'm showing this exact example.
Yep. And it makes a ton of sense.
Yes.
A ton of sense.
Yes. So or the term that you've probably heard of, don't get drunk on yield.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Because it's not always that same yield, right? I mean, on paper, for an example, I've paid 18% interest for hard money before because I used it for a month. I don't care if it's 18%. It can be 25%. I used it for 1 month. Doesn't matter. And what that means is because you take the 18 or 25% divided by 12 months in a year, and that's really what your percentage is.
That's correct.
Right?
So, yield is not realized until it's cashed in. You can project it, but until that asset cashes in, you have no idea what it is. It's all just if, come, maybe.
So how can the listeners really put this into action? Let's give them some action steps. If they say, okay, gosh darn it, you know what? I have an IRA. It's not making, I'm making 2% last year, or what, they're making a low percentage. They want to invest in real estate. They don't really know how to do it. I mean, what are some steps that they can do to take where they can get involved with you, with me, investing in some of these notes? What would that look like?
First off, figure out what their end goal is. Just like when a movie's shot, they shoot the last scene first. Where do you want to go? Figure out your risk tolerance. How much involvement? Do you want to be active? Do you want to be passive? I mean, they can partner with you and you'll give them their return. They can partner with me, they can get a return, and they can also get mentored along the way. So I guess, first off, get education. Understand the game. Understand the rules. Whether it be through a note school program with mentoring, whether it be going to your events. If you have, do you have events outside of the podcast here?
The Invest This meetup is what we're starting, but no.
Okay. Okay. Or if they're, or go to other meetups. Google notes meetups around the country. There's a lot of different educators out there, but don't just go for the mentoring and just fork out the money. What are you going to get for it? But so really, what's your end goal? And then work it backwards. Get educated, talk to yourself, myself, or others, and see what fits. Can I give an example? Do you have time for that now?
Yeah.
So I was referred to an oil worker out of Wyoming. He lives in Houston. And these guys are making stupid money. I mean, just stupid money, a lot. And he says, these guys make all this money. It's just sitting there, and we're not making money. And he's from Houston, so he goes home every 2 weeks. Doing hard money lending. He says, but I don't trust that. It's not getting me out of work. It's not giving me consistent cash flow. So what did he do? He was referred to me. He interviewed me. Now, before he saw me, he paid somebody $25,000 to learn about seconds, which are not existent now. But he sees did you hear what I just said?
I did, yeah. It took me a second, but yeah.
So my point is, he's reaching out to others, finding out who's got the branding and the image in the industry, a clean slate, and piggybacking with them. And he says, okay, I'll buy one little note with you. If it works, I'll bring my oil field workers in. And by the way, my sister has $100 grand. She'll bring that over to you also.
That's how it works.
He just is reaching out. Does that answer your question, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to get what I want to do. The reason I asked the question is because I want to give the listeners some direction on what to do next, right?
Education.
It's a powerful thing what investing in notes can do, what investing in real estate can do. It is, I mean, I just love, obviously I love it, right? It has changed my life and it has changed your life.
Right.
So, I just wanted to give them some direction on which way they can go if they wanted to invest. So to really narrow it down and really just keep it very simple, reach out. And we're going to go over how to get in touch with Dave. Reach out to me. You can get us on all the different social media platforms, and happy to give you some information and educate you about what you can do here.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. I'm in LinkedIn.
Yep.
Even me.
Yep.
So.
Well, we're going to make sure to include that in the show notes. But for sake of time, are you ready for a lightning round?
Go ahead.
All right, let's do that. So if you were to give our listeners one #InvestThis tip to keep them moving forward, what would that be?
Education.
Okay. Education. Anywhere? Education. Reading, and
reading online, the YouTube, whatever. Get educated. Feel comfortable with your decisions to mitigate or minimize your mistakes. Got to do that. And also vet the people you're going to be working with. It's not the deal, but the deal maker.
What is the biggest mistake that you've made in real estate so far?
Which day? Probably not pivoting soon enough. And in other cases, going too quickly and not looking at the details, because the devil is in the details.
Absolutely. That's an important piece. And I think that's a great fact or a great thought for people to think about.
I'm more of a marketing guy. I am not detail oriented. I hire people for that. The only reason the REO worked for me is because I had 5 people working for me and made me look like a star.
Yep.
But so you gotta, if you're hiring somebody, Tony Robbins has a DISC test. Hire somebody that's totally opposite of you.
Yep.
That's probably a really good tip for your listeners.
You hire for your weaknesses, not for your strengths.
Exactly. You don't want somebody to be yes.
Yep.
You want somebody to push back and say, I can do this. I can cover you.
Yep. Absolutely. Who's giving you the best advice out there? That's kind of a piggyback off the last question, but what has that advice been?
Follow your gut. My dad back in the day said, there's a ship out there, go after it. Go chase your dream. If you want it, you can get it. Just do it. Don't sit back and just say, oh, it's like, just do it. There's another gentleman, I'm not going to even mention the area. He's talked to me about notes. He doesn't do anything. He overanalyzes. He's stuck in analysis paralysis. Don't go there. It's crazy to do that.
Yeah.
That's partnering will get you out of that.
Yep. Nope. You're absolutely right. And analysis paralysis is one of those things that really catches a lot of people. They want to think about it too much, and you'll talk your way out of it every time.
They talk themselves out of it. Yes, exactly.
Right. So great piece of advice. How do you like to give back? I know that you had the meetup, talked about the meetup briefly. How do you like to give back other than that?
I mean, I've done Habitat for Humanity. I was a lead construction guy there for 3 years.
Okay.
I just like helping other people that sincerely need it. Am I going to go to a hospital and volunteer? No, that's not my game. Am I involved in a lot of stuff with church? No, I'm not. But like with my grandson, I want to teach him when he's old enough things so he can avoid mistakes like I have.
Amen.
It's just sharing, wisdom comes from a bad judgment, right? So
Right.
if I can share some wisdom with people, then they're going to maybe avoid some mistakes and they'll remember that down the road. And I don't even need a thank you. I just know that's going to be helpful.
Well, that's huge. And you know what? You're absolutely right. You've shared a lot of wisdom on this podcast already. And I definitely appreciate you being here. The last question I have for you is how do they reach you? If they want to learn more about notes, if they want to get involved, they want to put their IRA to work and actually make some real money. I mean, what can they do to find you? 3 ways. Facebook, LinkedIn, or my website, CapstoneCapitalUSA.com. Okay.
And those are the 3 ways. I mean, I can give you a phone number too, but that's fine. I don't know what you normally do on the show here.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to add all this in the show notes of the podcast so that, if somebody goes back and listens to this later, they'll have different ways to be able to contact you. So we'll get your phone number from you and make sure to include that in the show notes for all the listeners.
Okay.
I can tell you what, man, I really appreciate you being here today. You shared some golden nuggets out there for a lot of different people. I'm blessed to have you here.
It's been fun.
Good. Yeah, good. I'm glad for that. And once again, for all the listeners out there, if you're getting value from this, share it, subscribe to it, subscribe and tell everybody about the Invest This podcast so that they can get the same value you're getting out of it.
And if I could add something, Scott, if somebody calls me and just wants to chat for a while, I am open. Am I going to give them 3 hours? No. But 15, 20 minutes, if it's going to help them and I may not get anything out of it, that's okay.
Don't you just like to talk about real estate to people?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I like to do as well. I'm always open to do that.
Yep. And if I can get somebody off center and they can make money, they'll come back to me.
That's right.
If they don't, that's okay. But 9 times out of 10, they will. So it's all good.
Absolutely. So true.
Yep.
Well, Dave, thanks again for being here, man. We will talk to you real soon.
Good deal. Thanks, Scott.